Okay. I will call the meeting to order for the January 28th City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
The record will reflect that all members of council are present.
Terrific. Now's the time for public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. Mr. Mosier.
Mayor Stapleton, members of the City Council, my name is Jim Mosier, and I wanted to comment on what I think is a need to improve our process for alerting the public to public hearings at which they have an opportunity to comment on land use changes that may affect them. A case in point is item 3 on last Thursday's Planning Commission agenda, which is being reported to you on your consent calendar. The first issue is with the content of our notices. In that case, even somebody who saw the notice would only know that the Planning Commission was considering making some adjustments to heights in Newport Center to accommodate our housing overlays. Even somebody who is well informed about that might assume that the increases would be to 65 feet because that's what we deemed sufficient in all other areas of the city to accommodate the housing requirements. Yet only if you went to the meeting or read in detail the Planning Commission agenda, and not even the agenda item, the staff report, would you realize that the request or pending item was to increase heights right on this corner opposite the council chamber on Avocado to 150 feet, and just next to that to 270 feet for residential towers. Seems like a matter of some public interest. However, the only noticing requirements we have are we default to the state requirement, which is to mail notice to properties within 300 feet of those being changed. All of our peer neighbor cities, Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, Irvine, Laguna Beach, all have more liberal noticing standards than that. They at least have a bigger radius, or they have more people that are informed, such as apartment dwellers or commercial tenants. And Costa Mesa has interesting provision that if the building height proposed goes up, the noticing area increases, which sounds rather reasonable. We also default to the state allowance that if you need to mail more than 1,000 notices, you don't have to mail any at all. You can simply publish something in the city's official paper, which is required anyway, but that substitutes for it. You make it slightly larger. In this case, our official paper is the Daily Pilot. There was a day when publishing in the Daily Pilot would be seen by many people, but the advertisement appears in the classified section, seen only by print edition subscribers. Those looking online are very unlikely to ever see that notice. Hence, the meeting last night was conducted without anybody who had an opportunity to comment. Very few, only 2 people, myself and one who I notified of the meeting, myself, made any comment about this. I think for what we claim to be the greatest city in the world, I think we could do a lot better than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Harp, do you have a closed session announcement?
Yes, I do. The City Council adjourned a closed session to meet with the city's real property negotiators regarding negotiations with John Sanders and Robert McDonald related to the property at 3848 Campus Drive in Newport Beach, and to meet with the city's labor negotiators regarding negotiation with all represented employees. And that's all as set forth on the agenda under items 3A and B.
Okay, terrific. We will stand at recessed until 5 p.m. Thank you. All right, I'll call the meeting to order for the January 28th regular council meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
The record will reflect that all members of council are present.
All right, terrific. Mr. Harp, is there a closed session report?
There's nothing to report on item 3A, which we completed. We'll be coming back at the end of the meeting after the motion for reconsideration to consider item 3B, which we did not finish.
Okay, terrific. Now is the time for the invocation by Reverend Ray Jordan from the Corona Del Mar Community Church. Welcome.
Mayor Stapleton, City Council, thank you for the invitation. Please pray with me. Gracious and holy God, we have gathered in this space and time, seeking to be named your faithful. In this season of discernment, O God, we need your guidance and the direction that only you can provide. We're lost without the protection of your hands, and we're led astray without the wisdom of your love. As we gather today, let us acknowledge the shared spirit that binds us as a community. May our deliberations be guided by a commitment to the common good. We ask for the strength to listen to diverse perspectives, to seek understanding, and to work together for the betterment of our city. In all we do, O God, may we honor the sacred values of justice, equity, and inclusivity. May our actions reflect the best of ourselves, not the ego of ourselves. I pray, O God, that all will leave this gathering with a renewed sense of purpose and unity. It is in your holy and matchless name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Councilmember Grant, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, thank you. Please join me in the pledge to our nation's great flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so now is the time for presentations. The first is a proclamation to the Trauma Intervention Program, TIP of Orange County. So I see that, I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. And I see that Molly McLaughlin Perry is here. She's the vice chair of the TIP National Board of Directors. And then Molly, I'll ask you to come forward and say a few words, and then we'll take a photo. So thank you for being here. Okay, so whereas the Trauma Intervention Program, also known as TIP, is a national nonprofit organization founded in 1985 and has served Orange County since 1995. TIP has 15 affiliates serving over 250 cities across the nation, with each affiliate using specially trained volunteers who respond to traumatic incidents and the support of survivors and their families in the first few hours following a tragedy. Whereas TIP volunteers are available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and are called by police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and hospital personnel to assist family members and friends following a natural unexpected death, a violent crime, including rape, assault, robbery, and burglary, a catastrophic fire, motor vehicle accidents, and many more significant traumatic events. And whereas TIP's Orange County affiliate has over 125 active volunteers that serve 26 cities, 14 hospitals, and numerous public safety organizations, as well as a unincorporated Orange County airports and harbors as well. TIP has received the prestigious Innovations Award in state and local government from Harvard University and Ford Foundation, the Crime Victim Service Award for the United States Justice Department, and the Governor's Victim Service Award from the state of California. And TIP will be presenting its Heroes with a Heart celebration and fundraiser on Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, that will recognize the outstanding public service of Orange County's Public Safety and Fire Department honorees. Now, therefore, I, Joe Stapleton, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire Newport Beach City Council, do hereby recognize Trauma Intervention Program of Orange County on their 30th anniversary and for their outstanding public service to Orange County. I have here to set my hand and cause a seal of the City of Newport Beach to affix this day, 28th of January, 2025. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. We so appreciate and are honored to serve the City of Newport Beach in this capacity. I'm here with two outstanding volunteers, and they're the ones that are in the trenches doing the good work of TIP. I also want to remind you, we are recognizing Newport Beach City officers at our upcoming gala on February 19th. So we are really looking forward to that. Again, we appreciate our collaboration with Chief Minor and his officers, and thank you again for this wonderful recognition. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all you do. All right, we'll gather and take a photo. Okay. Next, we have a presentation. Mr. Paul Worms, are you going to join us up here? And we're going on this. So this is in the spirit of all things Celebrate Newport for the year as your mayor. And I figured no better person than Paul. He spent a career working in the archives and libraries. For over 2 decades, he worked for the National Archives as the Regional Archives Director for the Pacific Region and as the Deputy Director of the Nixon Library. So most recently, he was the Library Director at Sherman Library and Gardens, and now he's retired. He pursues a variety of interests, including local history and hiking. So Paul is also one of our historians for the Newport Beach Foundation, our Distinguished Citizen Program, and someone I consider to be a friend, and very excited to have you here tonight. And I think there's nobody better when it comes to the history of this Corona del Mar, one of our beautiful villages. So Paul is going to give us a presentation on the formation and creation of Corona del Mar.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm really pleased to be able to give you a very brief and very quick overview of the history of Corona del Mar. I'll start off right at the beginning, 1904. Beginning of 1904, what we now know as Corona del Mar was really part of the vast Irvine Ranch. And in that year, a Los Angeles businessman by the name of George E. Hart made a deal with the Irvine Company. He agreed to purchase 706 acres of land for $106,000. If you're trying to do the math, that's $150 an acre. And to build 2 piers, one on the ocean side and one in the Newport Harbor, as a means for people to get to the new tract. In June of later, a couple months later, he filed this tract map, which you see overhead, which kind of laid out the lots in Corona del Mar. And then towards the end of the year, he started selling lots. So this is the first ad for Corona del Mar. And you'll note that lot prices were from $150 to $1,000. You could pay them in 4 equal payments with 6% interest. Now, Hart had hoped that he could kind of leverage the excitement that was happening on the Balboa Peninsula, but unfortunately, a lot of people didn't want to buy in Corona del Mar for one good reason. The only way you could get there was by boat. You had to take a ferry to get to Corona del Mar. There was no land path because the Irvine Company did not want people coming that way. So Hart tried to promote it as best he could. He created a hotel, which was at the current intersection of Carnation and Seaward, and he built a pier so that people could come to Corona del Mar. Unfortunately, he didn't really sell that many lots. Most of what he sold were speculative lots, people who never built. In fact, by 1915, there were only 15 permanent homes in Corona del Mar, if you can imagine. These are two of them right on Ocean Boulevard Avenue. Okay. By 1915, Hart was really ready to give up the game. He sold everything he owned in Corona del Mar to another Los Angeles businessman. That's the second one to take up the torch. And this guy was F.D. Cornell. His main idea was just to rename the place. He tried to call it Balboa Palisades. And as you might suspect, ultimately failed to sell too many lots. And really, there were not many people who wanted to come to Corona del Mar. Now, it was very quiet, extraordinarily quiet. Here's a picture of Big Corona Beach. The main people that were really interested in Corona del Mar early on was Hollywood. They came here to present or to film movies, or lots of movies filmed in the silent movie era here. Probably the most prominent one was All Quiet on the Western Front, which was filmed almost across the street from where we stand today at the corner of MacArthur and San Juan Hills. So Corona del Mar continued to be pretty sleepy into the 1920s when the F.D. Cornell company sold out to yet another Los Angeles businessman named Spar, William Spar. And Spar's main attempt to promote the tract, Corona del Mar, was to put in a bathhouse, which didn't necessarily turn out to be very popular with residents, didn't bring in a lot of residents, but the surfers loved it. And Corona del Mar was considered by many, including Duke Kahanamoku, the best surfing in California. The waves going into the mouth of the harbor were fantastic for the big longboards that they held. So this is a picture from the 1928 Pacific Coast Surfboard Championship, the first major surf competition on the West Coast. Okay, so Spar, in addition to putting up a bathhouse, sold off a lot of his beachfront property to a group of Pasadena businessmen who tried to create the Balboa Palisades Club, which was had grand plans to turn the Del Mar Hotel into a clubhouse, and they were going to build bungalows and tennis courts and a golf course, and of course a private bathhouse. The club ultimately failed after 2 or 3 years. It kind of went down in a series of court cases based on fraud, but they did manage to build a boathouse in China Cove, and there you see it. The boathouse by 1930 was bought by Caltech and continues to be the Kirchhoff Marine Lab. Now, even though the Balboa Palisades Club was not very successful in the 1920s, it was a good time for Corona del Mar because in 1923, the city of Newport Beach annexed Corona del Mar. And by 1926 and 1927, you had important things happening, like the streets were paved. Finally brought electricity and gas to the tract for the first time in 26. Trees were planted, and Coast Highway even got street lights, which is a big innovation back then. And so everything was looking very, very good in the late 1920s. And of course, that all came to an end in 1929 with the stock market collapse. And then what happened next is that a great many of the owners of lots in Corona del Mar defaulted on their property taxes. And by the early 1930s, the city of Newport Beach became probably the largest owner of lots in Corona del Mar. They owned hundreds of lots because people had defaulted on the property taxes. And they made a grand effort to try and sell them. I'm sorry, I skipped over this photo. This is 1930 Corona Del Mar. I'd mentioned in 1915 there were 15 homes. You can see by 1930 there are quite a few more homes. You see paved streets, and the dark line up top is Coast Highway. But going back to the city owning lots of land, they tried to sell it off as best they could. Here's an example. This is Lawrence and Pauline Lushbaugh. They bought 2 lots at the corner of Dahlia and Coast Highway for $650. That is the house that they built, and you can still go see that at Sherman Library and Gardens, and encourage everyone to go and see that. But Corona Del Mar really languished through most of the 30s and into the wartime period. And it wasn't until the post-war period when Corona Del Mar and many other California communities really boomed. And so it's in that time that the Coast Highway gets filled up increasingly with businesses. You get more restaurants coming in. Here's a picture of Merle's Drive-In, which is located approximately where Gulfstream is now on those corners. So you have lots more restaurants coming in. You have hotels coming in to cater for tourists. So here is the Jamaican Motor Inn, which was at Avocado and Coast Highway. And then with all of these new amenities coming in and the value of the land increasing, more people wanted to live in Corona Del Mar. So by the 50s, you have the development of Irvine Terrace. In the 60s, Cameo Shores is developed. Later on, in the 70s, you have Spyglass Hill. Those are just a few examples. And Corona Del Mar from then on is kind of set in a course to fill out and really improve. So I'll leave you with just one last image. This is members of the Corona Del Mar Chamber of Commerce putting up a sign before the 1953 Boy Scout Jamboree, but I think it's representative of the many people that community members over time who have really worked to make it a great community. So, with that, I will end.
That's terrific. Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
I love your passion, and obviously your passion of the history of the city, and I just wish the city still had hundreds of lots that we owned in Corona Del Mar. That'd be great. But that's very cool. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and energy on that. Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Paul. And then next council meeting, we'll be diving into the history of the red car trolley line. So 1905, when people started coming down more frequently from LA, and then Newport became incorporated in 1906. So I think that has a lot to do with it. So thank you, Paul, for all your support on this. That was great. Okay, terrific. Madam Clerk, notice to the public.
The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items.
Okay, terrific. Now is the time for council announcements, oral reports from council members on committee activities, then time for council members to request an A1 item to be placed on a future agenda. Councilmember Wygan.
Yes, I attended the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District Board. It was our first meeting. We meet once a month. This council has appointed me to that role, and we are in a lot of discussions about an RFP for a new headquarters. The headquarters there was built in the 1940s, so there's a little bit of need for rebuilding there, but a lot of discussions we're having. There's 35 member agencies to that board, so our voice is one of 35. Pretty interesting. And then also our first meeting of the year for the Orange County Sanitation District, mostly orientation stuff, a few small items, but again, this council has assigned me, and Councilmember Bartow is my alternate for that board. We meet once a month for our regular meetings, and then I'm on the administration subcommittee, and that meets once a month as well. So thank you both.
You're not going to talk about your time as a first responder in the city? You grew the mustache and everything.
Yeah, we'll get
Weber's
you out
on
there.
it?
We'll get you out there.
I got
next year.
you.
I got some other council members who might report on it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Councilmember Bartow.
There's some pictures coming up. So as you all know, we had a lot of rain recently, and I just think it's fascinating to see what does not end up in our bay, thanks to our efforts controlling that. So I just wanted to include pictures because after rain, especially in the bay, I feel like people are always leery about going in and going swimming. So it's nice to see that we're making those efforts. On that note, I did attend the lifeguard tryouts, which was very fun and very cold, and some brave council member showed us what's up. It was pretty great. And that's my report.
Okay, terrific. Councilmember Grant.
Thank you. Just 2 items to recognize. One was the Newport Beach Commodores and Chamber of Commerce Christmas Boat Parade and Ring of Lights Awards reception I attended, and we do thank them quite a bit after the fabulous boat parade, but I just wanted to one more time thank all the people in the community who participate and who received awards for either their home decoration or participating in the boat parade. It's obviously a worldwide celebration, and we really appreciate all that our businesses and our residents do to make it such a wonderful event, a worldwide event. And then second, I joined East Bluff Elementary, one of our local schools, at the Orange County Food Bank last week to help organize supplies for displaced families, which is especially important now given the devastating impact of the Southern California fires. And I just wanted to thank all of those students and their parents for an outstanding effort in organizing those supplies.
Okay, terrific. Councilmember Blum?
Nothing to report.
Okay, perfect. Councilmember Weber?
Okay, I think you got a sneak peek. But so Saturday was our seasonal lifeguard tryouts, and in my opinion, it was frigid. I'm still defrosting, and I wasn't even in the water. There was about 60 applicants who came out, and I believe there was just about 40 or so that are moving on to the next round. But special call out to Councilmember Wigan for getting in there and competing and actually holding his own.
You got a video.
Actually, you can blame Krista. I asked her for all of these.
Jeez, look at that. How'd you finish?
He was like middle of, yeah.
I don't know, Chief. I haven't gotten anything yet. Where's my 1 of 40?
Oh, man. How far did you swim? What was the course?
It was a initial 1,000-meter swim from 28th Street to and around the Newport Pier, and then back in by lifeguard headquarters. And then they give you 30 minutes to warm up. Like, there's no way you can warm up in 30 minutes from that. And then you're off again, lined up at 20th Tower. You run to 19th, out to one buoy, which is about the length of the pier, then back towards the pier around another buoy, and then back in. Wow. You could cheat, though, that you didn't have to come directly into the sand from the second buoy. You could let the current kind of take you towards the 20th Street finish line. So it kind of did that. So I think I might have helped myself by knowing the conditions. But
smarter, not harder.
It was hard to warm up. I'm still a little cold.
And you hadn't practiced. You just showed up. That was the other best part.
Yeah, I kind of just did. Thank you for the shout out.
Got it.
Anything else, Councilmember Weber?
I will not be attempting it next year.
No, okay, fair enough.
I will attend. I'm not attempting.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
No report.
Okay, terrific. I will just say I had the pleasure of being in Washington, D.C. for the Conference of Mayors. I think former mayor and current council member Blom said it best. Our problems are not the problems of the rest of the country, and we're blessed for that. It was very interesting sitting with, there were a few hundred mayors in attendance, and what I did appreciate the most, there was about 12 of us from Orange County, so I got to build some meaningful relationships with the mayors here in Orange County, and I had a lot of fun. So that was a great time. I want to just give a shout out to our staff, Sean Levin, and then Melissa from the library as well. Thank you guys for what you did for the welcome event. Kudos. We welcomed a lot of the people displaced from the fires from Palisades and other areas in Los Angeles. Mayor Pro Tem was there as well. Kleiman was there with me. We had, I think, probably a dozen families that showed up, and I think the one thing we didn't anticipate were them connecting with each other. Maybe they had their kids went to the same school and they didn't have contact information, so a lot of them were actually meeting again in Newport since they'd been displaced from everything. And We had a good friend that attended, and every single home on the block was gone except for theirs. So I'm not sure what's worse. Their house is untouched, but everything around them is gone. So of the dozen families that were there, we had a bunch of resources and got them connected with the right people, whether it was the school board, the school district, the library, the parks, Oasis. It was fun. And then the donut guy was there in the truck and gave a lot of donuts and coffee, so that was great. Today I presented the staff lunch and learn for the first time, I think, ever. So hopefully that was well received, but it was fun as the mayor to present kind of the state of the city with the staff who are working on these projects day in and day out. So thank you for everyone who attended. And lastly, our planning session for council will be on February 1st, 9 a.m. at Marina Park. So that is my report. Okay, terrific. Now we're on to matters which council members have asked to be placed on future agenda. This is a non-discussion item. Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman and Councilmember Weber have asked council to consider creating an ad hoc committee to review applications for the public service programs funded by Community Development Block Grant CDBG on an annual basis. So with that, we'll take a straw vote.
That's unanimous, 7-0.
Okay, CDBG. Say that a few. Yeah, got it. Madam Clerk, please read the notice regarding public comments on consent calendar.
This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar for discussion. Those are items 1 through 16. Public comments are also invited on consent calendar items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion, unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and are removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Okay, terrific. Councilmember Weigand, do you have any items to pull from the consent calendar or conflicts to announce related to items 1 through 16?
I do not.
Okay, Bartow?
I do not.
Grant?
None.
Blom? Yeah. Weber?
Come on back, baby.
Oh, sorry. You didn't say none.
No, Item 10 due to business interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Weber?
None.
Mayor Pro Tem?
None.
Okay, I have a conflict recusal on item 12 due to client and proximity. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, do I have a motion?
I will move the consent calendar, noting the amendment to the minutes, the recusal of Councilmember Blum on number 10 and recusal of Mayor Stapleton on number 12.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, I got Grant first, so we will now have public comments on consent calendar items 1 through 16. Mr. Mosier.
Mayor Stapleton, members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier, and I would note this is the second meeting in a row where essentially all the business of the council is being conducted on the consent calendar, which means it's being approved without any public discussion of it, other than members of the public who may want to comment to you. And I would like to comment and call your attention to item number 8, which has to do with an ongoing contract with CR&R, who is the contracted trash hauler for the parts of Newport Beach, residential trash collection, I should say, for the parts of Newport Beach where the city provides that service. If you read the staff report, you will know that apparently in the original contract with CR&R, there is a pass-through of costs. So if their costs increase or decrease, the amount that they are paid would reflect those changes from year to year. If their costs go up, however, there is a cap of 5% that they could not ask for more than a 5% increase in their rate for the coming year. But there was not a cap on the decrease, and they are telling the city that their costs went down by 7%, and because they had had to absorb larger increases, they thought that was unfair to absorb a 7% decrease, so they want that capped at 5%. That is not an unreasonable request for the future as to how the payment to them should be calculated. But the problem is, according to the staff report, that they want that decrease to go back retroactively to last July 1st. Problem with that is that our California Constitution, Article 11, Section 10A, says that when somebody contracts with a city to provide services at a agreed to cost, they are expected to provide the services at the cost that they agreed to, and no city council has the authority to grant them extra compensation for what they've already done beyond the rate agreed to in their contract. You may have noticed contracts having to do with city employees that have a retroactive raise. Our California Supreme Court, in its wisdom, has found an exception to that provision in the Constitution for employment contracts, but I'm not aware of any such ruling having to do with other kinds of contracts. So giving CR&R a refund based on a recomputed rate seems to me to be a gift of public funds, and I would think you would want clarification of how we're allowed to do that and how big a refund they're expecting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment.
Adam Leverance. I just wanted to touch on item 12, long-term lease for Basin Marine for their use of a portion of the property at Balboa Yacht Basin, city marina. I think we all know it can't be overstated the value of boating in the community for the health and well-being of residents, property values, tourism dollars, and all that. And I commend staff. You know, this business has been there a long time with the ever-increasing per foot value of waterfront properties. There has been a loss of boat service industries and boating support industries. So the fact that something can be kept there for this length of time, I greatly admire. And I ask, you know, just in the future, consider that city-owned waterfront properties be designated for use of coastal or water-dependent businesses and whatnot and support services. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have a comment?
Just a quick comment. Perhaps for the public record, we should have the city attorney weigh in on item 8 and the retroactive application of that item.
So there is actually some case law out there that supports charter cities as a municipal affair being able to do things that maybe general law cities aren't able to do. And so the point he raised about gift of public funds, that wouldn't apply here in this instance.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none. Any additional council comments? Seeing none. Okay, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Okay, terrific. Now we'll have public comments on non-agenda items. Mr. Mosier.
Mayor Stapleton, members of the council, I wanted to comment on the upcoming city council planning session, which I believe you said is this Saturday in the morning at Marina Park. I think starts at 9 o'clock. The city usually notices those as special meetings, which require only 24-hour notice. I don't know what will happen this year. Sometimes the public does not see the agenda or know the format until the day before. Whatever, and as to what the format is, that's the main comment I wanted to make to you. In the last about 10 years, the planning sessions have mainly just been a report, kind of a receive and file thing from the city staff without any real discussion or anything being asked of the city council at those meetings. And I wanted to point out that before that, before any of you were on the city council, the planning sessions had a little bit different format. And I would suggest perhaps you and the staff go back and look at the agendas, say from the planning sessions on January 12th, 2013 and January 25th, 2014. And kind of to make up for our city not having what some cities call a strategic plan, at those planning sessions, staff presented a menu of what might be priorities for staff to work on in the coming year, and the council gave direction as to which of those priorities they thought were important. Now, because the notice is so short and the agenda does not clearly announce that discussion, that list of priorities was then tentatively, like at a study session, agreed to by the council, brought back at a future meeting for formal discussion of whether those should be the priorities for what staff is to work on. I think those were more productive planning sessions, gave the council more influence over what our staff was doing, and I would suggest you look at that former format. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lucas Shikori, and I'm a policy intern for Supervisor Katrina Foley, who represents Newport Beach at the Orange County Board of Supervisors. I'm a lifelong Newport Beach resident, and I'm just here to present a quick update from our office. As you folks mentioned earlier, something that we're all concerned about is wildfires, and we're happy to report that due to high winds, the Orange County Fire Authority is deployed fire prevention specialists to make sure that our county's most expansive dry areas where fire hazard is the greatest are watched after, and we're keeping care. Residents should also sign up for alerts at readyoc.org if they'd like to get text updates about emergencies. Additionally, this month, the Orange County Board of Supervisors unanimously voted for Supervisor Foley to serve as vice chair alongside Supervisor and now Chair Doug Chafee. She is very, very happy and gracious to serve in that role and looks forward to serving our community. Vice Chair Foley was everywhere in 2024, from hundreds of community engagements to helping bring back more than $1.25 billion in tax dollars from DC and Sacramento to reinvest in our community. Just a few highlights from the past year include implementing a common sense e-bike safety ordinance, introducing a nitrous oxide ban for commercial use in county unincorporated areas, supporting Proposition 36 and other anti-encampment enforcement measures, fighting for reasonable regulation of sober living homes, advocating for federal and state grants to support our rail corridor and save our beaches, and opposing all increases for residents. Vice Chair Foley remains continued to partner with cities, businesses, and residents to maintain our quality of life, create good jobs, and keep our neighborhoods safe in 2025. Feel free to call our office at 714-834-3550 if you should have any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Any other comments on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to current business. Item 17, appointment of a Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commissioner to fill an unscheduled vacancy. Do any council members have any questions or comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, any additional council comments? No? Okay, let's vote. Paper ballot? Madam Clerk will announce the votes.
The candidate needs 4 votes in order to be appointed. Councilmember Bardo votes for Travis Purdy. Councilmember Weber, Travis Purdy. Councilmember Blom, Travis Purdy. Councilmember Grant, Travis Purdy. Councilmember Wigan, Travis Purdy. Councilmember Kleiman, Travis Purdy, and Mayor Stapleton, Travis Purdy. That's unanimous.
7-0. Good for Travis. All right. Welcome to the Commission of Trees. Okay. Oh, benches and trees, yes. Of course. Well, he's a lifelong. Okay, here we go. All right. Before we go back into closed session, Councilman Wigan has asked to adjourn in the memory of Fred Simpson.
Point of clarification, need to ask for an item right before there.
Well, do we want to do that when we come back? You want to do it now?
No, motion to reconsider. I think you have to do.
You want to do that before we head to closed session? Okay, cool. All right. So, Madam Clerk, please read the announcement for motions for reconsideration. And are there any motions for? Oh, go ahead and read that. And then
A motion for reconsideration. A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council, either this meeting or the previous meeting, may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Okay. Are there any motions for reconsideration? Seeing none. Okay. Terrific. All right. Then with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn we'll adjourn this meeting with Fred Simpson from Councilman Weigand.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once we return from closed session, we'll adjourn in memory of Fred Simpson, who passed away on January 21st at the age of 86. Fred was a body surf legend at the Wedge and creator of the iconic Viper surf fins. Fred grew up in Long Beach. He attended college at UCLA, where he was a swimmer and water polo player. After a short stint in the Army, he worked in the sales department for Xerox Corporation. Fred body surfed regularly in Huntington Beach before discovering the legendary Wedge in Newport Beach. As the story goes, he quickly got hooked on body surfing the Wedge and spent decades mastering its powerful and world-famous surf break. I think we have a little video of him.
At that same time, body surfing was blessed with a guy by the name of Fred Simpson. He was the first one to put his lead hand on the face of the wave and get his other arm back. He navigated a wave the way a board would.
Thought that was kind of neat. He later moved to Newport Beach to be closer to the Wedge. Fred's Viper surf fins were not the first of their kind, but his original design created unique improvements that body surfers embraced. The Viper fins became hugely popular as bodyboarding exploded in the 1990s. In the surf culture that can be often intimidating to outsiders, Fred was known for his friendly and welcoming demeanor, a wonderful ambassador for the city. Plans for a Hawaiian-style paddle out in Fred's memory are pending, we think, sometime this spring. I brought a pair of my fins that have left me with many memories body surfing out in the waters here on Newport Beach, so he will be definitely missed.
Well, what a legend indeed. Thank you, Councilman Weigand. Mr. Harp, do we have a closed session announcement?
So we're going to go back into closed session to talk about item 3B, which is the labor negotiation item, and then we'll come back out and adjourn.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. All right, City Attorney Harp, do we have a closed session report?
There is no closed session report this evening.
Okay, terrific. So tonight we will be adjourning in the memory of Fred Simpson. We already made our comments, so he was a legend and will be missed. So, all right, we're adjourned. Thank you.